Hello, everybody, and welcome into this edition of One Nation Weather. We're going to be talking about those high-pressure systems as well as the low-pressure systems riding right over them in this One Nation Weather forecast for America. But let's talk about exactly what those high pressures are going to be doing for us, and look at that heat that it is going to be building on up. Temperatures getting up to near 100 degrees in many portions of the plains with heat index values up to 110 plus. It's July 23rd, 2023 in the afternoon, and we're discussing this week's heat wave in detail along with a tropical update. Go ahead and like, subscribe, and leave any feedback in the comments below. Now here's a look at your weather forecast for your Monday, July 23rd. Here you go. You can see a little bit of high pressure getting going for us here in the portions of the Four Corners region, spinning some rain showers actually around that with some low pressure in the area. We also have a low pressure system bringing some showers along the east coast and a chance for a few scattered showers and storms to get going into portions of the Midwest as well as into the upper Midwest with a front that is going to be in that zone. Now here's a look at your marginal risk for your Monday. We've got the chance for a few storms in the Northeast as well as into New England to go severe. And yes, those will have the potential for about 60 to 70 mile per hour wind gusts at the max, as well as a few 1-inch diameter hailstones, which is equivalent to quarter size. That would be what we could get going in some of those zones. And then shifting our attention back off towards the west, also with a marginal risk on your Monday, we have a few scattered showers and storms that could be severe from places like Minneapolis, Minnesota, the Twin Cities region, that goes all the way down into southern Missouri. And again, same thing applies for us there. Wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour, as well as a chance for a few 1-inch diameter hailstones in that region. Now let's move on to our Tuesday severe weather risk, and as you can see on here, we've got from portions of northern Nebraska all the way on up into the Dakotas and Minnesota, a level 1 risk for severe weather, and that's really going to be the trend. We've got almost like clipper-like systems, that's what you'd call them in the wintertime, making their way through southern Canada, and as they dive their way through, it's bringing the chance for some scattered afternoon showers and storms, some of which can be severe as they last into the overnight hours for us in this region. Now, Monday afternoon heat index, look at these values, 90 to 100 in many zones in the plains for the heat index. Along the east coast, you've got plenty of 80s and 90s. In the southwest, where it's about 107, that's basically what the temperature is with the dry heat there. That's what it feels like as well. Look at this, though. As we go towards our Tuesday afternoon, these mid-90s for heat indices, they climb on up into the upper Midwest, portions of the Ohio Valley as well. This is going to be really an extensive heat wave for us. As we go into our Wednesday, we really see those bright white colors even turn gray in some of these plain zone, indicating where we could see a few spots hit that heat index of about 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Nothing to joke around with. Plenty of heat advisories will be issued into the southeast as well, I'm sure. Look at this Thursday afternoon, your heat index. You can see some of these heat index values climbing on up to around 110 into portions of eastern Nebraska, southeastern South Dakota, and this really comes ahead of these systems that are going to be keeping it cooler into portions of the Pacific Northwest, and the Northeast will be at least a little bit tamer, feeling like 90. But look at how this begins to shift east on Friday, continuing to see those 90 to 100 degree heat index values into the eastern half of the country. Also in the eastern half of the country is going to be those high dew points, and look at this. Some of those values are in the 70s for us here in the plains. That's pretty uncommon. Even in the summertime in those zones, that's going to be higher than some spots in the southeast and Appalachians region. In those areas where we have the 70s for the dew point, that's going to be where it's feeling like 105, 110 degrees because it's already about 95 to 100 degrees outside to begin with. Now here's a look at your pattern trend this week. We've got that high pressure system sitting all over portions of the central part of the country. Notice how there's really just red on this map indicating the ridging there. But we've got these low pressure systems. You can see those blue dots at the top of your screen. That's where we've got those low pressure systems moving through in Canada. You can see a front draped across from portions of Maine back to Texas as we head towards midweek. But another thing I want you to notice, and this is the more important thing to notice, is that swirl area back into portions of the northern plains. That's going to be one of our entities pushing through Canada, bringing in that upper level humidity, and that will actually make it down to the surface as opposed to the other front for us there, and that will allow for some scattered storms to get going even as we go into Wednesday night. Look at the storm energy Wednesday night. Plenty of heat and humidity coming together to form that cape that is convective available potential energy. That comes in the joules per kilogram for us here. Thanks to Pivotal Weather and Tropical Tidbits for a lot of graphics on this, by the way. You can see some of those pinks moving northward. That's moderate to high levels of some of that storm energy there. And then as we go into our Thursday, look at your jet streams. You can see we've got that high pressure area really blocking out the jet stream for us there into portions of the panhandle of Texas and Oklahoma, back into Colorado and New Mexico. But look at how the subtropical jet comes out of the southern Pacific and meets up with the polar jet up in there in Canada. That's really going to help to fuel some storms moving through. They're not going to have a lot to work with for some reason for us here. There's just not really looking like there's going to be a whole lot going on. So here's your severe risk product that I've made for your Wednesday. A low-end risk for some severe weather is what I'm anticipating Wednesday from portions of the Dakotas, Minnesota, the upper Midwest, back over. into portions of coming off the Rockies, the Front Range for us there in Colorado. As we go to Thursday, I'm anticipating that to shift eastward a little bit. I think this might be maybe our best chance for some of the tornadoes to get going into portions of the upper Midwest, if this especially were to become a slight risk zone from the Storm Prediction Center, as we get a few of those storms to also drape their way back over into the Central Plains. And then you're about to see on your screen the image for our Friday severe risk product, and that's going to drape it further on off towards the south and east from portions of the Great Lakes region. All of those spots back on over into the Front Range, still seeing some of the severe storms there. These storms would mainly be capable of 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts, again, some of that quarter-sized hail, maybe up to the size of golf balls as well, as we're getting some of that cool air rushing in aloft. We'll keep an eye on that very closely. Now, looking at those mid-level winds, this is really amazing for us. Look at those pink colors. We've got very strong mid-level winds, and really it's going to be coming from the western many layers of the atmosphere. So we don't really have a whole lot of wind shear to necessarily support tornadoes in these areas, but nonetheless, I do have this medium tornado certainty as we head into this week. As you can see, from eastern South Dakota pushing on over into western Minnesota, that's where I have the best chance for tornadoes. But really anywhere in the plains, stay on alert this week, as well as into the upper Midwest and Great Lakes. I think if you live right along the immediate east coast, you're in general on the quieter side, as well as back towards the west coast this week. Now, the eventual retreat of this high pressure system will allow some cooler air to spill into the eastern half of the country. As you can see, some of the blue colors on your screen, those might move into August for us here. And some backdoor cold fronts really slide from northeast to southwest around that high pressure system. As that moves back on off to the west coast, you can see that really, especially into the mountain west. So here's a look at the temperature outlook from the Climate Prediction Center for July 29th through August 2nd. Look at those pink colors building up in the southeast. That's well above average temperatures during that time frame. So right as you flip the calendar, the heat is not flipping itself away, not at all. And then also into the northeast, notice we have a little bit of that cooler air pushing in. The storms will be mainly limiting themselves to the northern tier of the country for us, with the best concentration of some shower and storm coverage continuing into portions of Montana, as well as the Dakotas as we go into that same time period. And then looking at your temperature outlook, that 8 to 14 day outlook from the Climate Prediction Center, the start date of this is July 31st. The final date of this is August 6th. Most of the country getting in on the heat, but notice how that cool air really starts to dominate into the northeast, and that will continue to try and slide southwestward. And I'm going to show you an animation right here that I made to give you a look at that. So here we go. Low pressures working their way along the polar jet stream that's really combined up with the subtropical jet stream this week. Those high pressures dominate strong, so the first low pressure system really just rides on over that. But the secondary one, which is one that we're going to get pretty much after this week, that one's really going to be building into this weekend. Notice how it tears apart the high pressure system along the east coast and then allows some of that air, the polar jet stream, to dive on down, allowing some of that cooler air to spill into the eastern half of the country. So here's a faster look at that animation again. Low pressure systems riding over the ridges, then the ridge begins to slowly degrade for us here as we go towards later in the week, and then eventually the only high pressure we have left is in the four corners, and the cooler air spills into the eastern half of the country. Now your tropical outlook for your Sunday afternoon update, we've got Tropical Storm Don with a 60-mile-per-hour wind speed as of this update. Again, this is the afternoon update. We've got 40% chance of development out of that Invest 95L moving through and heading its way towards the Lesser Antilles and Caribbean. The good news with that, though, is that is on the downward trend in terms of its strength. Look at this. Also in the downward trend is Don turning subtropical and really just post-tropical at this point. Here we go, model tracks, bringing this towards portions of Western Europe. So if you have any vacation interests there or know anybody on vacation there, they might be getting in on some rain and wind later on. Here we go, Invest 95L, trying to get its act together, but really nothing going on too strong with that. The track guidance for Invest 95L, the models do agree that it will push into portions of the Southern Caribbean, and then right, just kind of skimming the northern coast of South America. And then your intensity guidance for Invest 95L. Again, look at this. Green is tropical storm. Most models keep it below that. So in your headlines recap, major heat wave is coming. High temps of at least 95 degrees are coming for tens of millions this week, with many locations seeing higher temps and heat indexes. We've also got the heat generally being relentless. The storm system's looking to trend onto the northern side of things overall, into the northern half of the country. The good news in the tropics as Don is continuing its weakening and trek away from the USA, while Invest 95L weakens unexpectedly in the tropical Atlantic. But hey, we'll take it. Like and subscribe. Leave your comments and feedback in that section, and here are the credits. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Hope you enjoyed.